On January 22, 2001, in Forsyth County, Georgia, USA, 32-year-old police officer Randy Thompson was unexpectedly found lifeless on a sofa covered with a blanket. The cause of death was determined to be arrhythmia. A few weeks later, Randy's mother received a condolence letter from a woman named Kathy who lived in Cobb County, Georgia, about an hour's drive away. In the letter, Kathy wrote that 6 years earlier, her son, Officer Glenn Turner, had also died suddenly at the age of 31 under circumstances identical to Randy's. Following a few flu-like symptoms, including vomiting, difficulty breathing, and abdominal pain, he too suffered from arrhythmia and died very suddenly. The two grieving mothers connected and shared their deep sympathy for each other. The more they talked, the more they uncovered a shocking secret. Besides sharing the same cause of death, their sons had one more thing in common: a wife. That woman, seemingly ordinary, was Lynn Turner. After 6 months of relentless effort, the two grieving mothers persuaded the authorities to launch an investigation. The investigation began with Lynn Turner, the primary suspect. Lynn was born on July 16, 1968, in the city of Marietta, Delaware. When she was just 3 months old, her mother gave her up for adoption to a well-off couple in Cumming, Georgia. Lynn's life appeared to take a complete turn for the better in her new home, where she was cherished and pampered. However, enduring happiness seemed elusive. When Lynn was 5 years old, her adoptive parents divorced. Lynn was forced to choose between them, and she decided to live with her mother. Not long after, her mother remarried, and Lynn found herself feeling alienated, unable to get along with her stepfather. Her life grew even more unstable during her teenage years, when she began hanging out with friends who led her into a drug rehabilitation facility. Despite this, her adoptive mother supported her education, and Lynn graduated from Forsyth County High School in 1986. Things took a turn after she earned her associate degree and began clerical work at a law office. Lynn developed a fascination with law enforcement and the men in uniform working in the field. According to Caitlin Ruther's book, Lynn would engage with officers sitting in their patrol cars, captivated by their uniforms. Lynn worked hard and in 1991 secured a job as a 911 dispatcher for the Cobb County Police Department, earning $20,000 annually. However, Lynn could not abandon her previous lifestyle. Outside of work hours, she frequently visited bars frequented by police officers and socialized with a group of young officers in Marietta. Lynn, an attractive woman with a good figure, drove a luxury car and could afford to spend lavishly on anything, always sought to appear glamorous and be the center of attention. In 1992, during a dance party at the apartment of a suburban Atlanta patrol officer, Lynn met a kind-hearted but ill-fated man, Glenn Turner. Through their conversations, Lynn learned that Glenn had enjoyed playing the saxophone since childhood, and like her, was a fan of NASCAR, motorcycles, and car maintenance. Lynn tried to turn her flirtation into a fairy tale romance by buying gifts for the man she had chosen. She gave Glenn clothes, new tires, and a pair of snakeskin cowboy boots. Glenn loved Lynn deeply, even though his friends and family suspected she had ulterior motives from the very beginning. When Glenn's friends heard he had proposed to Lynn, they even placed bets on how long the marriage would last. Despite the challenges and opposition, on August 21, 1993, Glenn and Lynn tied the knot, fulfilling his dream. From that moment, Glenn's life began to spiral into tragedy. The couple's relationship started to deteriorate even before their honeymoon ended. The conflict began because Glenn didn't book the luxury yacht Lynn demanded and instead opted for a family-sized yacht, which infuriated her. Returning home from the frustrating trip, Lynn decided to reward herself by buying a Datsun 240Z. According to Reader's Digest, other sources reported she purchased 2 Camaros, each costing around $25,000. Glenn, a police officer earning about $26,000 a year, worked a second job at a gas station to cover the bills racked up by Lynn's extravagant spending. Despite Glenn's tireless efforts, Lynn continued to seek pleasures for herself. On one occasion, she and her friends attended the famous Daytona 500 race, while Glenn was stuck working at the gas station. No matter how hard he tried, it was never enough for his greedy wife. 6 months into their marriage, the couple stopped sharing a bedroom. Even as everything fell apart, Glenn still cared deeply for his wife. A friend often witnessed Glenn calling Lynn during work hours, asking what she wanted to eat so he could shop and cook for her. In return, Lynn responded with curt and rude remarks. Despite Glenn's devotion, Lynn showed no remorse as she continued her reckless spending habits. After exhausting all his efforts to save the marriage, Glenn eventually realized that his attempts alone could not fix their relationship. He began considering divorce. However, before he could take any action, on March 2, 1995, Glenn was found dead in bed, wrapped in a blanket. After just 19 months of marriage, the cause of death was determined to be cardiac arrhythmia. Those close to Glenn revealed he had never had any health problems. However, in the days leading up to his death, he exhibited flu-like symptoms, including vomiting and diarrhea. Glenn had taken 3 days off work to seek hospital treatment and was discharged after his condition appeared stable. Lynn later told others that Glenn acted strangely after returning home. The night before his death, she claimed he experienced hallucinations and tried to jump off the balcony. Believing he could fly, he then went down to the basement, demanding to drink gasoline. The next morning, when Glenn seemed to feel better, Lynn left the house. A few hours later, Lynn returned and found Glenn dead in bed. When a detective arrived, she told him what had happened and took him to the basement to photograph the gasoline can. The detective noticed another can containing blue antifreeze next to the gasoline can. However, in Whitehall, the detective noticed another. At Glenn's funeral, everyone present noticed the lack of emotion on Lynn's face. Even more surprising, she was holding hands with another police officer from the county, Officer Randy Thompson. During her marriage to Glenn, Lynn had been having an affair with Randy. If Randy was unaware that his girlfriend was married, Lynn had cunningly kept it a secret until the day she brought him to Glenn's funeral, and told him that she had been married but was now divorced from the man lying 6 feet under. Lynn had no criminal record, and the possibility that she had murdered Glenn Turner was never considered viable by the police. This cleared the way for her to receive $150,000 in life insurance benefits and Glenn's police pension, which amounted to $750 a month. She also took half of a $6,300 deferred compensation payout that Glenn had intended to give fully to his sister, claiming it was hers. 3 days after Glenn's funeral, Lynn followed the same pattern she had used with Glenn. She started by buying cowboy boots and World Series tickets for Randy, Victoria's Secret items for his sisters, and a stereo system for his parents. She even purchased a house for herself and Randy to move into together. How could this 911 operator afford such extravagant spending? Lynn told the police that she had received a fortunate gift from her grandmother. However, everyone knew that her wealth came from Glenn's life insurance payout and numerous credit cards in his name. In January 1996, Lynn gave birth to her first daughter with Randy, and 3 years later, their second child, a son, was born. In early 1997, Randy named Lynn as the beneficiary of his life insurance policy. The following year, at Lynn's suggestion, Randy increased the coverage amount from $100,000 to $200,000. Around this time, their relationship began to deteriorate as Lynn's finances dwindled. She and Randy argued about money. It was later discovered that she owed approximately $35,000 in credit card debt and was behind on her mortgage payments. At the time, Lynn earned less than $33,000 a year from her job at the courthouse. Unable to tolerate the situation, Randy moved out in 1999. However, he still hoped for reconciliation because their children were just 5 and 2 years old at the time. In 2000, Randy contracted a staph infection while recovering from sinus surgery. His mental health seemed to decline. A friend of Randy's recalled seeing him lying on the floor, talking to his brightly colored parrot, Simon, who wasn't even in the room. At home, Lynn made grilled cheese sandwiches and sweet iced tea for Randy. These seemed to make him feel a bit better. 3 days before Randy's death, on January 19, 2001, he and Lynn met to discuss reconciling, giving their relationship another chance for the sake of their 2 children. The next day, January 20th, 2001, Randy visited a doctor with flu-like symptoms, including a sore throat and fever, but improved significantly after taking medication. However, he experienced similar flu-like symptoms in the days leading up to his death. After returning from the hospital, he began vomiting and had difficulty breathing. As his condition worsened, he called a colleague, reporting feelings of disorientation and panic. The following morning, the colleague discovered Randy dead, wrapped in a blanket, the same manner in which Glenn Turner had been found. That same day, a police officer noted something unusual while visiting a car dealership. Records indicated that Lynn had called earlier to inquire about renting a car for Randy's funeral, even before his death had been confirmed. Clearly, following Randy's death, Lynn appeared to have been well prepared for her husband's demise. Growing suspicious of her, the police immediately contacted a medical examiner to conduct a detailed analysis of Randy Thompson's body. They discovered calcium oxalate crystals in his kidneys, a substance often resulting from ingesting ethylene glycol, a sweet-tasting, odorless chemical commonly used in antifreeze. The level of ethylene glycol in Randy's body was found to be lethal. After confirming that Randy had been poisoned, investigators sought a warrant to exhume the body of Lynn's first husband, Glenn. The test results aligned with their suspicions. Glenn's body also contained a lethal dose of ethylene glycol. All evidence increasingly pointed to Lynn as the perpetrator of these crimes. As the police delved deeper into her background, they uncovered even more suspicious details. Firstly, after Glenn's death, Lynn had benefited financially, receiving $150,000 from his life insurance policy and a police pension of $750 per month. This pension might explain why Lynn cohabited with Randy and had 2 children with him but never legally married, despite his repeated proposals. She retained her ex-husband's surname, likely to continue receiving the benefits. Secondly, investigators discovered that Lynn had significant financial problems and was heavily in debt before Randy's death. On one occasion at the bank, she mentioned that she would be able to settle all her debts within a few weeks. Thirdly, Lynn's phone records revealed that on the day of Randy's funeral, she made 2 calls to an insurance company to expedite the payout of his policy. She was shocked to learn that she was entitled to only $35,000 instead of the expected $200,000, as the policy had been cancelled months earlier due to Randy's non-payment. Given this evidence, investigators concluded that Lynn had a financial motive to commit the crime. Additionally, police discovered that, shortly before Randy's death, Lynn had contacted the Cobb County Veterinary Clinic to inquire about substances used for euthanizing animals, claiming she wanted to deal with stray cats. Moreover, when reviewing photographs of the Turner residence crime scene, they noted the presence of a container of antifreeze. Believing there was enough evidence, the prosecutor recommended that the police arrest Lynn for both murders, citing financial motives and her desire to be with Thompson. Lynn immediately killed Turner. She likely poisoned drinks such as tea and soup over an extended period. After moving in with Randy, Lynn again had conflicts with him, leading her to plan his murder in the same way she had with Turner. In response to all accusations, she maintained her innocence, claiming that the deaths of Randy and Turner were mere coincidences. Wearing a blue blazer, Lynn appeared more like a middle manager at a company than a murderer. By May 2004, Lynn was convicted of killing Glenn Turner. 3 years later, Lynn was convicted of killing Randy Thompson. After deliberating for 4 hours, the jury found her guilty. One juror remarked, "Debt, lifestyle, when you piece everything together, it basically adds up to a murder weapon." In both trials, Lynn was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. She was later given the media nickname Black Widow, after the venomous spider that kills its mate after mating. Not long after, in August 2010, Lynn, then 42 years old, died in prison while still serving her sentence. According to authorities, Lynn had stockpiled heart and hypertension medications provided by the prison until she had enough to overdose, ending her own life. Eager to claim the life insurance money, the woman who appeared fragile had poisoned her husband, Turner, to death, and felt confident in her wrongdoing, even going so far as to do the same with her boyfriend, Randy Thompson, the father of her children. People with such cruelty, I believe, still lurk in the corners of life, and there seems to be no way to stop them.